Hello, everyone, and welcome to UC San Diego Rady School of Management's online masterclass series brought to you by your MBA admissions team. Today's masterclass is called How to Build Confidence and Inspire Others with Professor Todd Salovey. Now, before we get started, there are some things that I'd like to share basic information with you. Today's webinar is scheduled to last up to about 45 minutes or so. You can submit your questions, and it's not the question screen now, it's the chat screen. So at any point, you're welcome to submit any questions. As your host today, I may be able to answer your question immediately or during the presentation. But I also have Matt Alex here with me. He is our Director of Admissions. Matt, I don't know if you want to say just a quick hello.
Sure, yeah. Hi, everybody. Welcome. I'm so excited for you to join us today. Thank you for taking time out of your busy day. I hope this is a great opportunity for you to learn something new in general. I know that those are always kind of fun ways to step out of our normal bubble and try something new. But I also hope that this gives you a better sense of what it might be like to be a student at Rady. So thank you all for joining us today. I will be in the chat for a lot of the event as well. So thank you.
I appreciate that. Thanks so much for being here, Matt. It's so nice to know that we have a director of admissions who really does get involved in the process of not just making decisions, but also seeing, what we can present to our prospective applicants. So thank you for being here. To schedule a personal advising session for the full-time MBA program, please email me directly. I've got my email address there. It's jnemeth@ucsd.edu. And for all other programs, please email radygradadmissions@ucsd.edu. That's our general inbox. It is reviewed on a regular basis. And while some emails do go a little bit slower, please do leave information or questions there for other programs. I am Julia Nemeth. I am the Assistant Director of Graduate Admissions and Recruitment here at Rady with a focus on the full-time MBA program. I've been with Rady since 2014, and it's been one of my goals to collaborate with faculty like this to present a master class series for prospective MBA students since, I started working for the MBA program. I'm excited to be here today. And of course, if you have any questions, there's my email again. So feel free to submit your email and questions there as well. And before Professor Salovey joins us, I would like to take a moment to share with you Rady School's mission, which is at the heart of everything we do. Here at the Rady School, it is our mission to develop ethical and entrepreneurial leaders who make a positive impact in the world through innovation, collaboration, and knowledge. The Rady School students, alumni, and faculty over the last 17 years have developed over 180 companies benefiting and impacting the innovation economy of our region, state, country, and world. With only our second dean at the helm, Dean Lisa Ordonez intends to transition the school from a startup to focus on growth and further cement the school's global business research prominence and impact as an innovation-focused economic engine within the San Diego business community and beyond. Now, the Rady School's graduate programs cover a range of disciplines, from the flagship MBA to our specialized programs in MS in Business Analytics, professional accountancy, Masters of Finance, and even a PhD program. Yes, we do have that. That's managed through a different department, but it is one of our programs. We also offer the MBA in a flexible format, which is great for working professionals. And we did just add this year a flex weekend option for the MS in Business Analytics as well. The school also has a series of very popular undergraduate minors and is developing the first ever collaborative undergraduate business major at UC San Diego. So we're definitely jumping on our mission of collaborating. And so what I'd like to do at this time actually is to invite everybody to take the poll that I'm launching. So what I'd like to do is ask you a couple questions. Which programs are you most interested? When do you hope to start the program of your choice? And what is your current status? So please submit your notes here so that I can just get a feel for who's all here today. And do feel free to answer those questions in the chat too if you have them coming through. So I've got a handful of you already submitting your program of interest. I do see some of you here. I've got an admitted student. Yay. Application started. Great. Gathering info. Okay. We've got a handful of folks already doing this. I'm going to go ahead and leave the poll open. Hopefully those who do end up trickling in and joining us a little bit later can finish that, and I'll end the poll in just a moment. What I did want to just highlight really quickly is that each of our programs are currently being reviewed on a rolling basis within the rounds listed here. So the MBA programs, both flex and full-time, do have a round 2 deadline of February 1st, which is next Monday. We do also have a round 3 with our final deadline for international applicants. The specialized master's programs are all now already in their round 3 of admissions, and they will accept applications through April 1st. Again, that's the deadline for international applicants to those programs as well. And any future rounds and other deadlines are available on our website at rady.ucsd.edu. So please do take a look at that as well. I wanted to actually speak a little bit about the admissions process for those who haven't yet begun. It's quite simple, really. First, we always recommend connecting with a graduate admissions advisor to learn more about the program in which you're interested. Also to determine your preparedness and potential with the program itself. Secondly, you would have to complete the application online. There's a full application checklist available on our web pages, and we cover these in our advising sessions regularly as well. So we can go through, what you need, what you might be missing, what's important for each program. So please do go through those application checklists. The third step after you have submitted your application and reviewed by the admissions committee is to potentially receive a request for an interview. Please know this is highly program dependent, but for the MBA programs, you should expect an invitation to interview if you've passed the initial admissions committee review. The fourth step in admissions is to accept admission if it's offered and to submit your enrollment deposit. This deposit does hold your seat in the cohort and confirms your commitment to joining Rady at the start of our program. It saves your seat, basically says you're coming for and you're going to be here. You're committed to being a Triton at UC San Diego. And the fifth and final step is to get ready. Or if I may be punny here, get ready for a transformative professional experience. So that's pretty much all I've got going on for the info session. And I'm going to go ahead and close out polling. It looks like pretty much everyone has gotten their responses into my polls here. So I'm really excited about that. I'll go ahead and end that. And it tells me to share the responses. So I'm going to share it. Hopefully you all can see. We've got a number of folks interested in the full-time MBA, looking to start in 2021, which is this fall or summer for MSBA. And most of you have already started your application. So I'm excited that you're all here for that. Thank you so much. Professor Todd Salovey is in the house. I'm very excited to introduce him. He is our headliner for today, and the reason that you have all taken this time to join us to take part in this truly transformative experience. Professor Todd Salovey with the Rady Online Masterclass, How to Build Confidence and Inspire Others. Todd Salovey embodies the collaborative spirit of the Rady School, teaching MGT 402 Management Communications and MGT 439, which is a Topics in Organizational Behavior course, as well as being a member of the acting faculty of the Theater and Dance Department at UC San Diego and teaching a number of undergraduate and apprentice courses. Outside of teaching, he is in his 25th season as the San Diego Repertory Theater's Associate Artistic Director. Mr. Salovey directed the original workshop production of Herbert Sigens's A Weekend with Pablo Picasso at San Diego REP and its world premiere at the Alley Theater in Houston. He also directed subsequent productions at the LA Theater Center, Center Arts Rep, and REP, and the Denver Center Theater Company. Mr. Salovey has directed so many acclaimed REP shows that I wouldn't have time to list them all. And on top of that, he is also a Triton, having received his MFA at UC San Diego. Professor Salovey, if you are here with me, please join me on camera. And I do see that you are here. Thank you so much for being here. You are now co-host, and the screen is yours. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to hand it over to you.
Well, thank you so much, Julie. I'm really honored to be part of this program. I'm a theater director and I'm an acting teacher. I've been teaching acting at UCSD for almost 30 years. About 10 years ago, I got the idea of using techniques from acting and theater to help people in business and management be stronger in all of their communications. I see you as current and future leaders in business and companies, in innovation, and that you'll be using communication and presentations to gather teams around you, to advocate the things that you're interested in progressing, to pitching people and business ideas. And what I'd like to do today is just start by giving you some techniques from the theater that can make you stronger in all of your presentations. Sound like a plan? You want to come forward with me? This is a very participatory workshop. So I hope that you've got the notes in front of you that you can reference and write on. Does everybody have the notes with them?
I did add them to the chat just in
Great.
case our participants didn't have them. So feel free, for those who weren't able to open the attachment that we sent earlier yesterday and this morning, feel free to pull it directly from the chat here. And I'm going to go ahead and mute myself. Thank you.
Let's start with a quote. This is a quote that I use. This is actually the opening of my Management 402 class. Could someone read the quote for me from Terry Pierce's Leading Out Loud? Someone come on, Mike, and read that for us.
People make commitments to causes they value and to people they respect and trust. Rediscovering an authentic voice and maintaining a commitment to meaningful change are requisites for any leader who would respond to these needs. Such authenticity requires speaking from both the mind and the heart, directly to the minds and hearts of others. When those who listen sense both competence and conviction, they are willing to engage, to consider their own commitment, and eventually to act.
Netta, thank you very much for reading that for us. What strikes you as resonant about that quote? What resonates for you in Terry Peace's words?
For me, I like that Terry Pierce is calling out both communicating to the heart and the mind. As an engineer, we do a lot of communicating to the mind and not as much of appealing to the heart. So it's nice to see that being called out, and I think it's very authentic.
I love your answer. As a theater director, I'm used to speaking to the heart. So in working with Rady, I had to recalculate to work more from the head, but also to coach people at Rady to work additionally from the heart. So thank you for bringing out that distinction. Anything else strike you as resonant in this quote? Anyone else? Well, Netta, I'm happy to have a conversation with you. What else is resonant?
I was going to say, I apologize for any banging noises while my audio is unmuted. I have roofers on my roof today. But I did like the start of the quote saying that people make commitments to causes they value, because I think it is a big part of persuading people to take action on a certain thing, is showing them the value and how it relates to them and what it means to them to participate in these actions.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm going to ask a question. I'm going to stop sharing my screen because I'm going to assume that you have access to these notes now. Could you give me a wave if you do not have access to the notes and you want me to continue to share my screen? Great. So I want to ask you a question, and I'd like to invite you to answer in the chat. Who do you feel are the most effective presenters that you've seen, and what makes them great? Could you put that in the chat, please? So Tomoya, why do you say Steve Jobs? What makes him such a great presenter?
I think I watched his Stanford commencement speech, and I really impressed his interesting story. And I think his way to present Apple products is very simple and strong message. So yeah, I think he's best presenter.
Yes, I agree. It's such a powerful speech because he talks about the ways that he's failed. He shares vulnerability with his audience and he tells stories. I love the idea that he talks about having dropped out of Reed College and taken an art class. And that's where he learned about fonts and became interested in the way things look. So, and then in some of his introductions for Apple, I just love, I guess, the way he has so much passion and excitement for the things that he's showing. And by the way, he uses visuals. Do you see how he doesn't use PowerPoint to just say what it is he's already saying? He's always using it to highlight or juxtapose what he's saying. Awesome. So who else? Oh, cool. Erica, tell me about Dr. Fauci. Why do you like his presentation so much?
Well, I'm a biology background, so it's easier for me. But I like how honest he is. And obviously he's got a lot of experience. So, he's going from a breadth of knowledge. So the intelligence comes through. So you can trust that he knows what he's talking about. And I do think he's very authentic. He doesn't, when he tells you something, there's a reason for it. And he's not, there's no agenda, I guess, so to speak.
Great. So people who are clear, passionate, trustworthy. Great. And Netta, what about your Toastmasters Club? Who are the people that are most, that you think are the strongest presenters?
Sure. There's one guy in my team, his name is Mike, and he always gives very engaging speeches, encouraging other people to try and give speeches as well, even if they're nervous or they're newer or they're less experienced. And I really enjoy his speeches as well as the speeches of a lot of our experienced members, because they're very good at getting to your level and motivating you to understand how participating in speeches benefits you, or how different topics are engaging and interesting, and they're all very authentic, and there's a lot of humor in their speeches, so I enjoy that.
Okay, wonderful, great. I want to give a definition of presentation that may be different than what you're thinking about. To me, a presentation is any time that you are in front of one or more people and using a communication to influence a future action. So anytime you're in front of one or more people, even on Zoom, and using communication to influence a future action. So by that definition, how often are you presenting?
Multiple times every day.
Hopefully you are. Great. So I want you to give some thought, because today I'm going to ask you to work with me on an upcoming presentation that you have. What would be your most important upcoming presentations? Could you write those at the bottom of page 1? What are your most important upcoming presentations? And think about one that you might want to work on today. And Amar, I love your comment in the chat about presentations that you like that are concise but based on an audience level. I love presentations that are geared specifically to the audience that they have. Cool. So to give you an idea from theater, in the theater there are 3 different kinds of applause. The first kind of applause is polite applause. Could you give me polite applause? It's so hard to get polite applause. To me, polite applause means, oh, it's over. I lived through it. I'm done with it, right? Time to get on to something more interesting. The second kind of theater, the second kind of applause that you have in the theater is appreciative applause. Could you give me appreciative applause? Okay, good. So there's some enthusiasm on it. To me, appreciative applause means I got value. I'm glad I attended. Thank you very much. But there's a third kind of applause that's different than all the others, and that's a standing ovation. To me, a standing ovation means I was dazzled, time flew, that exceeded my expectations, and I want to give back to that presentation. I want to join it. I want to become part of that show. So in the theater, once you've gotten a standing ovation, you won't settle for anything less than that. And thankfully, in the last 30 years, almost all of my shows over the last decade or so have gotten a standing ovation. It took me a while to learn how to do it. You have to take more risks. You have to be more authentic. You have to demand more of your audience. You have to speak more bravely to the time. When you do those, the audience leaps out of their chair and wants to give appreciation for what you've done. So in the world that you travel, in the presentations that you see, in education, in business, what would you say is the average applause level that you're seeing out in the world in the presentations that you're seeing at work?
Not much.
Not much. Restrained, polite applause. Thank you, Nana. Right. So I asked myself, why are we satisfied with polite applause in work and in education? But for me, they say in directing, you're only as good as your last show. So if I get polite applause, the phone doesn't ring for years. And I think one of the reasons is that we pretend not to see it, because in my world, people actually clap, they actually stand up. But in the world of business and education, people, the course is over, the meeting is over, people go on with their day, and you don't really see it. But I think we should just start our presentations, start to build our confidence and our ability to inspire people by thinking about what might our standing ovation look like in this presentation. So assuming that people are not going to stand, I mean, I know what Julia's standing ovation is from this, is that of the 15 people here, of the 13 of, there are 2 of us and 13 prospective students, that 13 people apply to Rady. That's a standing ovation, right? So by the way, I just have to say that I teach all of the MBA, all the full-time MBA students, and it's a super happy cohort. People here really like the sense of camaraderie and obviously the entrepreneurship and the level of teaching. So might as well come out and say that you don't have to take my word for it. I've done presentations with all of the first year MBA students at this point, and it's a very satisfied and inspired cohort. Okay, so what would you in your world see as a standing ovation? How would you know that you got a standing ovation? Could you write that in the chat? What would if assuming that your audience doesn't stand and clap, what would your audience do to let you know you've gotten a standing ovation? Erica, what would engagement look like? I love the answer. What would engagement look like?
I was thinking I have a pretty big presentation, pretty big presentation coming up where we put together a panel discussion for a film premiere, and it's all about antimicrobial resistance. So for us, having someone who watches this event actually want to learn more or get involved somehow with public policy or public health, like any sort of engagement, even if it's just, I talked to my neighbor about this thing I just heard about that's scary, could be a lot of different
people after they experience it talking about it or wanting to get more involved in it. Great. What are other standing ovations? Could you write those in the chat? Okay, awesome, Howard. People, what might a next action be, Howard, of someone who hears your presentation?
For me, I mean, I work with a lot of supply chain folks on contracts. So a signature obviously would be the standing ovation at the end of the day for me. But just
Right.
continued engagement and have the communication be coming both ways, and just collaboration, I would say, is definitely what we look for.
Okay, wonderful. Amar is saying the audience is engaged, participate in discussion, that there's answers, important aspects are raised that make you think. So again, that there's a lot of engagement that comes as a result of the presentation. Any other answers? So I want to just start with the idea that the great speakers that you're talking about, to me, are standing ovation speakers. It's easy to teach people to be good in presentations, but what I'm striving to do in my classes at Rady is teach people to get standing ovations in all of their presentations, which really means engaging, moving audiences to take future actions. And there's some different strategies they use coming from the theater is a great way to do it. I want to give another idea from the theater, which is about auditions. Auditions, maybe this is a little bit similar to interviewing for an MBA program, but the way actors get cast in a play is you do a 5 to 10 minute audition, which means you do an acting monologue. There's a saying in the theater that auditions are decided in the first 60 seconds. Now, actors hate hearing that because you're doing 10 minutes, and yet the auditioners are deciding in a minute. Well, that's actually not true. What we're deciding, whether we want people in our play or not, really happens when they walk in the door. So what are we judging in a blink? I think that we're judging two relationships and a focus. We're judging what they think about themselves. We're judging what they think about us. And we're judging what their objective is. I think winning the first 60 seconds of an audition and of a presentation starts with defining for yourself, what value are you bringing? Who are you? What value is the audience bringing? And what do you want to make happen in the room? And that's what we're going to work on today. Since I'm an acting teacher, I always start with a little bit of a warm up. So I'm going to ask you to put your hand on your belly. I know some of you are not on camera, so I'm assuming that you'll be doing this even though I can't see you. I also teach a 125-person lecture at UCSD, and we all do acting warm ups at the beginning of my lecture. So hand on your belly and breathe in, fill your belly with air. Breathe in and out. And in and out. And again, in and out. Great. And breathe in and breathe out on a gentle sigh. Ah. Again, in and out on a sigh. Ah. I know you may have people in the room with you who are wondering, what are you doing? In and out on a sigh. Ah. And in and out on a hum. Hmm. And again, out on a hum. Hmm. And one more time, out on a hum. For me, deep breathing and humming makes me feel much more confident going into a presentation. So just as a question, I'd like you to think about now, what is a presentation that you'd like to, well, actually, why don't we share something just here between all of us? When we do warm up, I like to share some ideas. So let's just, could everybody share one great thing that you've discovered about yourself since the start of the pandemic? Okay, so we're warmed up. I teach, hey, let me teach you some skills about presenting on Zoom, okay, before we answer. So that's my question for everybody, which is, what's something that you've learned about yourself that during the pandemic, and maybe something you've experienced in the pandemic that you want to keep doing when things open up again, which will hopefully be soon. All right, let me give you some ideas. There's things I also teach in my class. So the first thing is about making eye contact. The crazy thing, of course, about teaching on Zoom is that if I'm looking at all your pictures, I'm actually not making eye contact with you. So you've got to get comfortable looking at your camera. We all become film stars when we're talking on Zoom. So one way to get yourself comfortable with that is pick somebody who is a lively person and put them underneath your camera so that you're actually looking close to your camera whenever you're talking. Another thing that we always think about is where you're framed in the frame. Now, I did something that I'm gonna undo right now, which is I hid my self view. So the reason why I hid my self view is I find it's tiring when you're on the screen all the time, and I find I can relate to my camera and people in Zoom if I hide myself. And there's a reason for that, which is that our eye is always drawn to the most attractive and charismatic thing on the screen, which is always ourselves. So that's a little tip, but I'm going to turn my self view on right now so I can just tell you a few things. First of all, is to think about framing. When you're speaking on Zoom, and this is the same for film and television, you want your eyes to be at about the 2/3 level of the frame. That's also good photography also. So I'm trying to arrange that my eye is at the 2/3 level of the screen. Also talking about light, that I like to have light coming from the front of me. In fact, I have light at a 45-degree angle on this side, light at a 45-degree angle this side, and a little bit of light, you can't see it, but behind me also, that gives me some dimensionality. There's another idea that I have, which is, I call it, why not take all of me? This is something to think about. So why not take all, there's from that song, why not take all of me? Anything that I'm doing, which is keeping the audience from experiencing all of me, is not giving my full value to the audience. And so anything that I'm doing, so, if I'm standing in a room, I know we would love to be like just standing with our hands in our pockets, but you don't see my hands, so you're not take all of me. Or if I've got my arms folded like this, or the worst thing that we do, of course, that we always do in presentations, is when we read from our script. So while I'm reading, hello, I'm really happy to be here. I'm really glad to meet you. I'm not sharing myself authentically with the audience. And what we do, of course, on the screen is we read off the screen. So especially in a simple question like this, and I think in the start of any presentation, I'm daring myself to give it right to my camera so that I can make a connection with people so that people get to see my authentic self. So those are just some ideas to think about as you share the answer to this question. So let's just go through the Zoom. I guess I'll call people as they're showing up on my screen and just share a sentence or a statement about what you've learned about yourself, the pandemic, or something that you want to keep doing after the pandemic is over. So, and engage that camera, engage the group. Howard, you're up first.
I've learned that I have a lot to learn in the kitchen, and that my cooking skills, though have improved in the past year, have a long way to go.
Excellent. Tomoya.
I learned how I loving and watching TV dramas. I spend time to watch Friends. It's
Okay. I'm enjoying some good television shows. Netta.
Yeah.
Others, so you know what order I'm going. It'll be Netta, Erica, Amy, Matt, Verka, Joel, Amar, Sun E, Ashrit, and David will be the order that you're on my screen. Okay, Netta, you're up.
I learned that I have a really strong and diverse network of people that allows me to plan events really well. It's something that I didn't really consider beforehand, but I am involved with the Society of Women Engineers, and I was able to put on a tour of the operating room at my company with more than 100 attendees showing up and a lot of people participating, and it was a very good experience. So I'm thankful for my network.
Erica.
I think I learned the importance of family. My husband and I and our 2 children, well, my second was born this summer. We are the only family we have in San Diego. Everyone else is on the East Coast or in Germany. So we learned how to do Zoom weddings and Zoom birthday parties and Zoom, Zoom, Zoom. Yep.
Wonderful. Amy.
Hello. So I actually started the MBA program during this pandemic. So I learned how to get to know my cohort over Zoom. So we haven't met in person yet, but we've been able to do weekly coffee chats with random people in the MBA program. And it's been really great to interact with people and get to know each person over Zoom. And we're looking forward to when we can meet in person.
That's really wonderful. Thank you. And Matt. Okay, skipping Matt, going to Amar.
Yeah, I miss a lot of social interaction, whether it's in office or with the friends. That's the one thing I learned. And I like to play sports as well. So a lot of times the friends were not available because of the pandemic. That's another thing I missed. And the things that I discovered is like spending time with the family, working in the kitchen, playing with my son. So those are the new things that I discovered. I spend a lot of time with them. So yeah, that's on the positive side.
Thank you so much, Amar. And Sun?
Hi, I'm working out at home because the gym closed. So my personal trainer always teach me through Zoom. So I think it's a kind of works for me.
Wonderful. And Ashrith?
Hi. So I actually learned how to it was the first time talking to other people online through Zoom, and I really don't know how to communicate through Zoom. I never did that. Skype or before whatever it was there. It was more personal and interactive. So I'm still learning on how to do this. And I realized that I'm good at I think I'm good at cooking. I mean, I'm not good. I want to learn more.
Awesome. Great. And David? Okay. And so please turn to the top of page 4 on the handouts. We only have about 6 minutes remaining, and there's so much I want to teach you, but hopefully I'll get to do that in the fall next year. So I created a structure for opening a presentation that I think may be useful for you to think about using. And it's something that I used at the start of today, and you can use a version of it when you start a presentation. It's basically based on who am I, who are you, and what would I like to accomplish together? So when I say who am I tend not to do a job title with that. I very often say what I value or what passion I bring. And then for the audience, I try to find something that I admire about them or something that they're interested in, that I connect with them. And then what I hope to accomplish together is stating my objective. So I started today with this, that I'm a theater director, and I've spent the last decade taking techniques from theater, using them to teach people who are managers out of theater. And that I see you as current and future leaders who are going to use communications to further the agendas and the things you want to do. And I want to give you techniques from the theater that make you stronger in all your presentations. So that's a very simple, authentic structure for a start that you can use in a presentation, which can make you connect to your audience and also feel very authentic. Do you want to take a moment and think about if you were going to introduce yourself? Just take the first question of that. Think about if you were going to introduce yourself, what would you say about yourself? Not that, something which is distinguishing or something that you value, something that you're good at, which would give the audience a sense of who you authentically are. I'm going to take a moment and write that down. Great. Now, I'm going to ask a few people to share theirs, just their opening statement of who they are. And again, it's hard to do it in a minute. It's actually something to think about and develop over time. And again, this is a start that you can use. It's a start you can use when you're asked, when you ask, tell me about yourself in an interview question. I think I created it as a structure so that you can make a relationship at the opening of a presentation. So one of the things I also teach is an idea that I call the 4 C's, and this is at the top of page 5. And people have asked me, how would you summarize things you could think about, tips for good presenting in 4 statements? And I came up with these 4 C's. So the first C is to connect. And what I mean by that is connect to what you're saying so it feels authentic to you, and connect to your audience. In fact, that's all I have to say to myself before a presentation is really connect. And then I can drop in and be there and really really be with my audience. The second is to converse. Now, this may seem counterintuitive, but rather than trying to give a speech, make it feel like a conversation. Make it feel as though you value the audience's response. You may be doing all the talking for a certain amount of time, but give the audience a sense that their presence, their ideas is something that's valuable to you, and that ultimately you want to have a conversation. The third is command. Now, command to me is strong posture. Why not take all of me? Having enough volume to be heard by everybody. Being confident looking in the camera. So, okay, I am a believer in fake it till you make it. And I basically say, like, sit up straight, put your shoulders back, lead from your heart. And if you put on a confident posture, you'll feel more confident. And you know what? Audiences read confidence as competence. So I've been acting confident for years and people think I know what I'm talking about. So the third C is command. The fourth is commit. Commit to what you're saying, which means no ums and ahs, no sort ofs, no hedging. Be committed to what you're saying. Find the passion and the distinct value of what you're saying and commit to that. So to me, those are the 4 C's that can help you be more confident and inspirational in all your presentations. Connect, converse, command, and commit. So given the work that we talked about in terms of, looking at the camera and strong posture and thinking about the 4 C's, could a few people share their first sentence of an opening just to say who they are? Someone volunteer to do that? I know you haven't had a lot of time to work. Okay, Netta, you started it, so I'll have to ask you to end it too. Do you want to give it a try?
Sure. I'm Netta. I'm a biomedical R&D engineer, and I design spinal implants. My real passion is people, so I really enjoy working on large cross-functional teams and enjoying hearing other people's opinions and collaborating with them. And I'm really passionate about improving people's quality of life with my products.
Awesome. Great. That is really wonderful and a great answer and very impressive. And it will work in your radio audition. So your radio interview. Just one thought for you to think about, for everyone to think about is, I have an idea that the candy of your thought is always at the end. Sometimes what we do when we're speaking is we stress the beginning and we run out of commitment for the end of it. Do you realize the way sentences are structured, that what's really distinctive is at the end of the sentence? You haven't really said anything until you get to the end. So even that sometimes we feel like, oh gosh, how am I going to get to the end of this? I'm running out of steam. Push to the end of the line and stress and lift the end of the line. So we only have a half hour of work together. So this is just a taste of the work that we do at Rady. In my class, I do a lot of presenting. We present in every single class. People work together and collaborate. I think one of the most beautiful things about the Rady cohort and about the Rady experience is that it's very collaborative and people are very supportive to each other and really want to help each other and bring out the best in each other. So I know that I'm on faculty. I'm supposed to, promote Rady, but I have to say that I think it's culturally a very special place. I think that for those of you that know San Diego, to in the middle of winter to be able to watch hang gliders out the window over the ocean, while you're taking a quant class is a pretty great part of the experience, and it's really an innovative place. And not every place would have a acting teacher and director from the theater department be part of the core curriculum. And it's a place for people who are looking to innovate, looking to improve their skills, looking to make connections. And I think it's a great place to get your MBA. I just want to offer to you, you see my emails at the bottom. If you have any questions, and if I can help you in any way, if you're doing an interview and you want me to coach your presentation, you're here, you're listening, that's a real offer. I'm not going to charge you anything. So feel free to reach out to me. Any questions before we end the session? Thank you so much for your attention and for participating with me, spending the time together. Now hand it back off to Julia.
Well, I want to thank you so much. I first met Todd when I started working with the MBA program. I literally walked into his class and I said, do you mind if I just hang out here and just be a fly on the wall? And when I saw the work that he was doing, I had to get him involved. And I was so excited that he agreed to join me on this journey of the Rady Online Masterclass series. I think our faculty are in a much better place now to try this with me, this online version of giving their class, because they were forced to do it last April without any preparation. And so I want to thank you, Professor Salovey, for taking time to be with us. I know all the people who were here today, whether they could be on camera or not, definitely got a lot out of the conversation, and we appreciate your time and your effort. For everybody who was here, thank you for participating. We're going to have some additional master classes in the future, so keep an eye on your emails and calendar. You've got my contact information. You now have Todd's as well, and hopefully if you have any additional questions, we'll be able to do those in one-on-one advising sessions or in chats or in SIP sessions. But at this time, I want to say thank you to everybody. Give your afternoons back, or your mornings or middle of the nights, wherever you are in the world. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you all again very soon. Bye. Thank you so much.